right, welcome back to Brashenomics, everybody. Heather Moore here, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the hour, today is the first day of school for University of Washington college students. We actually have three alumni, UW alumni in studio today, and I can guarantee you the tips that Hank Coleman's going to offer are things we probably might have been really useful for us. I know personally, I wish I had him set me down and explain some of this stuff to me. But again, Hank Coleman joins us. Hank, he's a professional writer and blogger focusing on personal finance and investing topics. And he is also the author of the popular site moneyqa.com. His work's been featured in dozens of other newspapers, online news sites, and blogs. But we're really excited to have him on air with us today. Hey, Hank, how are you?
Hey, Heather, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no, it's always a pleasure to have you on. And I can tell you, this next segment, I wish this was me going into college right now, getting some of the advice from you. Because I know, when you're a college freshman, it's the first time you're really free. And I bet you a lot of people that are going into college for the first time don't understand what's about to come their way in terms of, spending money, budgeting, et cetera.
Yeah, everything comes at you. If it doesn't come at you a mile a minute, it's coming at you from every other direction. And so, I totally agree with you. I wish I could go back in time and tell the younger me when I was a freshman exactly, hindsight 2020, where I screwed up. And boy, right, did I make some mistakes as a college freshman, sophomore, you name it.
And I think that no matter what, everybody is gonna make some mistakes, especially with spending. But if we can prepare everybody or provide some tips ahead of time, I think we're doing some good. And you had three top money tips for college freshmen. I was just wondering if you could go through some of those with us.
Sure. The number one thing on the list, of course, is the dreaded evil credit card.
Yes, sir.
The number one. That's the number one killer. The number one problem for college students, adults too, but for college students especially.
It's all new for them.
It's all new, and you're just starting out, and you want to get off on that right foot. And so mistakes that you make as a college freshman, if they're huge enough, things follow you for the rest of your financial life if they're that catastrophic. But credit cards, there was a survey out earlier this year that said that credit card balances for college students have increased. In 2004, college students were keeping about $950 on their credit on their credit card. That's how much debt they had. By 2009, the number had jumped to $4,100.
You're
the average
joking.
Balance. No, that's the average balance according to the latest studies and in a survey just put out in the International Journal of Business and Social Science. $4,100 is the average balance on those credit cards, and it just keeps compounding. They found that 1 in 3 college students have 2 or more credit cards, and 90% of the college students carry a balance over month to month. And so we're starting early, and we're digging that hole even earlier, and so it's setting us up for struggles later in life.
Yeah. Do you think some of that's related to kind of the rising cost of tuition, or are people just getting less education on how to spend and use credit cards, or do you think it's just kind of a combination of a lot of factors?
It is a combination of a lot of factors. Ironically, studies and surveys have shown that the students aren't actually paying like their college tuition bills with their credit cards. You might hope that that would be at least a better use of debt if you've got to go into debt. But with student loans nowadays, really the need for credit card debt for for tuition not really prevalent. But you're just seeing continued spending on those wants instead of needs.
iPads, mini iPad.
Exactly, the new iPhone 5. Yeah.
Well, so do you recommend that people not use a credit card at all, or do you have a recommendation on how to introduce yourself to credit? What are kind of your tips in that regard?
Well, not all credit is bad. If you need a credit history to do those fun things that we all want to do later in life, like buy a house or even to buy a car. You've got to start small, and you've got to establish that your credit history. So, you might want to look at, a secured credit card that's tied to your bank account or a deposit that you made. Or, if you really had to do a credit card, maybe you just one with a very small, balance that you could rack up. So, just start small and pay it off every month. I mean, there's nothing saying that you have to carry a large credit card balance to get that good credit. I mean, once the credit bureaus see you paying that off, I mean, you'll see your credit score, start to rise.
Absolutely. And one big thing you had mentioned in your article was budgeting and keeping your budget in check. Can you give us some advice for college students trying to create a budget and keep it?
Sure. But we all know budgeting's no fun.
It's not fun at all.
Not fun at all. I mean, people don't even want to say the word budget. It's a 4-letter word.
Yeah, it kind of has a negative connotation to it. It's like, I'm on a budget.
So, spending plan. Now the popular thing is to say that you're on a spending plan.
Spending plan.
A budget by another name. But everybody needs a budget. Even college students need a budget. They don't really realize it. But, I mean, most college students have very little income coming in. I mean, maybe there's work study, maybe there's a part-time job, but that very little income, but our expenses continue to creep into our lives. That iPod, that iPhone, iPad, the new laptop, whatever it is, and then we're so inexperienced at that age that we don't understand those wants versus needs. And, I mean, you might have a college student paying a car payment or a car insurance, but quickly those budgets become overwhelmed if you're not keeping track, if you're not writing them down. I mean, college students, just like a household, need to have a monthly written budget. Need to start off at the top line, exactly how much money you have coming in, and then after that, you just keep subtracting all the needs, and then at the bottom, if there's some, the wants. I mean, just keep subtracting and then do a very simple budget, but everybody needs a budget, especially college students.
Yeah, and it's a good time to start because a lot of college kids don't have the same, they don't have the car payments, the insurance. A lot of their things are still being covered by their parents, but these things are going to be introduced to your life. It's only going to get worse as you go on, so it's a good time to start.
Yeah, I mean, this is the great time to start slowly, get a feel for it. Make your mistakes now when you've got just a few payments or not very much income coming in. My mom was so funny. She always used to talk about when you're learning how to drive. She had an interesting theory about when you learn how to drive. Every teenager, when they start driving, inevitably has a fender bender. Or if you're like me, you have like 2 or 3 fender benders. It's all part of the learning experience, learning how to drive. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
Yeah.
But the key is to make your first accident relatively minor. I mean, God forbid, you don't want to hurt anybody or get hurt yourself in that major accident. And as crazy as it sounds, your finances are exactly the same way. It's okay to make mistakes. Like you said earlier, no one's perfect, and everybody's going to make mistakes. But gosh, you want to make sure that you're making those small mistakes.
Instead of a big catastrophic one.
Exactly. You don't want to make that huge catastrophic mistake that it'll take you years to come back from after you've graduated. You've spent all that time, all that energy and money to earn that college degree, and then you get out into the workforce, and next thing you know, you're just spending, the next 4 or 5 years of your life working, 9 to 5 just to pay off the mistakes that you had when you were 18, 19, 20.
Yeah. And then, examples of a small mistake, from your article would be like bouncing a check or maybe a missed payment or a late payment on a credit card, which on their own are small things that you can come back from. But if those things keep piling up, that can be pretty devastating to your overall financial picture. Absolutely.
The trouble is that young college freshmen, young students, they get caught in that loop. Mm-hmm. It just compounds itself. It's a behavioral loop. You get in a bad habit, and then it snowballs. And the next thing you know, you've got a serious financial problem on your hand. You're making minimum payments on your credit cards because you're not doing that budget. The next thing you know, you're overdrawn on your checking account, or you've dipped into your overdraft protection, and then you reach for that credit card because that's the easiest and least obtrusive way to save your bacon and get you out of that hole that you're overspending. And the next thing you know, you're in debt again. You're in debt, more debt, and then it's just your minimum payments are creeping up because you piled on more credit card debt, and it's a sad, never-ending loop that a lot of people with bad financial habits get stuck into early in their their financial lives or their college lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're here with Hank Coleman, freelance financial writer and owner and author with Money Q&A. We just have a couple minutes left here, Hank. I just wanted to see if you had any last-minute pieces of advice, either from the article we're talking about that you want to give people starting their college year right now.
Well, sure. One thing that I've always that's really upset me is the lack of financial education in our public education system, the public school system, the high school, and even colleges. Colleges don't sit down and give the proper education to their students that they're desperately needing. So the college students really need to understand that, and then seek out ways that they can improve their finances, the best techniques, the best things to do for their finances, whether it's learning to, just rip up that free credit card offer they get in the mail, or, where to invest that few extra dollars that they've got, instead of spending it on beer on the weekends, maybe, and start investing in that Roth IRA. But they got to start thinking long term.
Yeah, well, everybody's probably going to spend money on beer on the weekends, but
how about just a little less money on beer? Just a few.
There we go. It's Monday Night Football over here in Seattle, so I guess you know where my mind's at.
Right. I'm a huge baseball fan instead of a football fan, so I won't start down that rabbit hole with you.
We'll get to that sometime. Well, if you want more information and tips, you can find this article on moneyqa.com. He has tons of great articles on literally every financial topic you can think of. And thanks again for joining us, Hank. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, thanks, Heather. I really appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you next time. And again, if you want to learn more from Hank, moneyqa.com. My name's Heather Moore. You're listening to Brashenomics. We'll be right back after this break.